5 months ago, my mother could not walk across her kitchen without holding the walker with both hands. She had fallen twice in the previous year. Her quadriceps had lost so much strength that getting up from a chair required pushing off the armrests, and her doctor had quietly started talking about assisted living. Today, she walks through the house on her own. No walker, no cane. She made tea this morning and carried it to the couch. That transformation did not come from a miracle supplement or a single breakthrough moment. It came from a specific 5-month protocol built on what the research actually supports. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what changed month by month, exercise by exercise. Because everything that worked for her is backed by published clinical evidence that most people never hear about. First, you need to understand what was actually happening in her body. Because without this, the rest of the plan makes no sense. The technical name for what she was experiencing is sarcopenia, the progressive, age-related loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength. The European Working Group on Sarcopenia in Older People defines it as a syndrome characterized by generalized muscle loss with risk of physical disability, poor quality of life, and death. After age 50, muscle mass drops by roughly 1 to 2% per year. Strength declines even faster, between 1.5 and 5% per year. By age 80, a person may have lost 30 to 50% of their peak muscle mass. That is not a small number, that is half the engine gone. But here is the finding that changed everything for us. Muscle remains highly responsive to resistance training at any age, including in the very elderly. This is one of the most consistently replicated findings in exercise science. The Cochrane Systematic Review by Liu and Latham, covering 121 trials and over 6,700 participants, confirmed it directly. Progressive resistance training produces measurable improvements in gait speed, ability to rise from a chair, balance, and fall risk in older adults. The effect sizes were clinically significant, not just statistically significant. That means real, visible, functional change, not just a number on a chart moving slightly. A 2019 NSCA position statement on resistance training for older adults, cited over 1,800 times in academic literature, states plainly, resistance training is a powerful intervention to combat muscle disuse. So the question wasn't whether this approach would work. The research settled that. The question was how to structure it for someone who couldn't stand unassisted for more than 60 seconds. Month 1 was entirely about safety and foundation. Nothing fancy, nothing strenuous, just restoring the basic movement patterns that had deteriorated. At the start of month 1, my mother could stand at the kitchen counter for about 30 to 60 seconds before her legs started shaking. She could not walk more than a short distance without the walker. She was afraid to move quickly. Fear of falling is itself a documented barrier to recovery. Researchers measure it formally using a tool called the Falls Efficacy Scale. And the research shows clearly that this fear, if not addressed, creates a destructive spiral. People who fear falling reduce their activity, which accelerates the muscle weakness that makes falling more likely, which increases the fear. The only way to break that spiral is structured, progressive movement. The first exercise was chair rises, sitting in a chair and standing up. That's it. But she started on an elevated surface, with cushions added to reduce the depth she had to rise from. 1 to 2 sets of 5 to 8 repetitions, 3 days a week. Rest days are essential. Older adults' muscle repair processes are slower than younger people's, and recovery is part of the training. She also did standing heel raises while holding the counter, 2 to 3 sets of 10. This builds ankle strength and calf endurance, which are critical for walking balance in ways most people don't think about. Seated leg extensions with a resistance band, standing hip extensions at the wall, gentle hamstring stretches. That was the full month 1 program. Simple, safe, and exactly what the CDC's Growing Stronger protocol and APTA Geriatrics guidelines recommend for this population. By the end of 4 weeks, She could complete 10 chair rises with noticeably less effort than when she started. Her standing time without support had improved to 45 to 90 seconds. The walker was still there, but she was exhausted less quickly. That might sound small. It wasn't. It was the nervous system beginning to relearn how to recruit muscle fibers efficiently. What exercise scientists call neuromuscular adaptation. These early gains happen before visible muscle mass increases. They feel significant because they are significant. The body is getting smarter before it gets stronger. Month 2 was about crossing a threshold. The exercises progressed, and the first real functional changes started to appear. Chair rises were progressed to standard chair height, no extra cushion, and moved to 3 sets of 10. We added mini squats at a counter, squatting only 30 to 45 degrees, not a full depth squat. This combination, chair rises and mini squats, targets the quadriceps, glutes, and core stability simultaneously, which is exactly what you need for upright mobility. We also started single-leg balance holds at the counter, 1 foot lifted for 10 to 15 seconds per side. This trains the proprioceptive system, the body's ability to sense where it is in space, which is essential for unsupported walking. Resistance band exercises for the hip abductors, the muscles on the outer hip, were added here because hip abductor weakness causes the characteristic unsteady, waddling gait pattern common in deconditioned elderly walkers. We started timed hallway walks with the walker, measuring how far she could cover in 2 minutes. The standard 2-minute walk test used in geriatric physical therapy. We documented this number every week. By the end of month 2, she could stand at the kitchen counter without holding on for 30 to 60 seconds. She was taking short assisted steps, 3 to 5 steps without gripping the walker in a safe environment. She told us that daily activities were starting to feel less exhausting. That is not a small thing to hear from someone who had been genuinely frightened to move. Month 3 is where the most significant transition in the whole 5 months happened. Clinical literature, including physical therapy research, documents that transitions from walker to cane commonly occur around 10 weeks into structured programs like this one. Month 3 is weeks 9 through 12. The exercises move to full chair rises without using her hands, arms crossed over her chest, rising purely with leg strength. This is a major functional benchmark in geriatric physical therapy. We added tandem walking along a wall, walking with 1 foot directly in front of the other, heel to toe, for 10 steps. This trains the balance system specifically required for unsupported walking. Step-up exercises on a 4 to 6 inch step were introduced, 10 to 15 repetitions per leg, because unilateral leg strength is what you need to navigate stairs and uneven surfaces. And we started walker to cane trials in a safe indoor environment with someone nearby. She walked 10 to 15 meters with a single-point cane instead of the walker. The first time she did it, she stopped twice and grabbed the wall. By the end of week 12, she walked the full distance without stopping. By the end of month 3, she was covering 15 to 20 meters with a cane, with a stable gait. She could rise from a standard chair without using her hands. The walker was no longer required for short indoor distances. Month 4 was about expanding what she could do and building confidence on varied terrain. The resistance training continued at meaningful loads, resistance bands in the medium to heavy range, light dumbbells of 3 to 5 pounds. We added lateral step-overs, stepping sideways over a cane laid on the floor to train lateral stability, and backward walking, 10 steps backward while holding a counter, to strengthen the posterior chain and improve balance in all directions. Most importantly, she started walking outdoors, short distances, 50 to 100 meters, on uneven pavements and grass with the cane accompanied. Outdoor surfaces are significantly harder to navigate than smooth indoor floors. They challenge the balance and adaptation systems in ways that indoor training cannot fully replicate. By the end of month 4, she was walking 50 to 100 meters outdoors without stopping. She was managing transitions, sitting to standing to walking smoothly and without prolonged preparation. Month 5 was independence. The goal was unassisted walking for short to moderate distances in familiar environments. We maintained all the prior exercises with slightly increased resistance. We added balance challenges on unstable surfaces, standing on a folded towel for 30 to 60 seconds. And we began progressive cane weaning, walking known safe indoor routes without the cane, 5 meters first, then 10, then the full length of the hallway. Stair practice with the railing, managing the bathroom independently, walking to the kitchen and back. By the end of month 5, week 20, she was walking 20 to 30 meters unassisted on flat indoor surfaces. Indoors, the walker was retired completely. Outdoors, she kept the cane as a precaution on unfamiliar ground. The nutrition piece is not optional. It is half the protocol, and it is the part most families miss entirely. Resistance training without adequate protein produces significantly inferior results in older adults. The standard recommended daily protein intake, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, was set based on nitrogen balance studies and is considered inadequate by most geriatric nutrition researchers. The PROTE-GE study group, published in the Journal of the American Medical Directors Association in 2013, recommended at minimum 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram per day for healthy older adults, and 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilogram per day for those in rehabilitation or actively exercising. A 2022 meta-analysis by Nunes and colleagues in the British Journal of Nutrition, cited nearly 400 times, confirmed that protein intakes of 1.2 to 1.59 grams per kilogram per day enhanced gains in lean body mass. For a 70-kilogram senior, the difference between the standard recommendation and the rehabilitation target is 56 grams of protein per day versus up to 105 grams. That is almost double. It matters enormously. We distributed her protein intake across 3 meals: eggs at breakfast, fish or chicken at lunch, legumes or dairy at dinner, because research shows that 25 to 30 grams per meal is more effective for muscle protein synthesis than eating most of it in one sitting. Vitamin D was also addressed. Many older adults are deficient, and vitamin D affects both muscle function and bone density, both of which directly impact fall prevention. Now, the emotional part of this story is real, and it is backed by research too. Loss of independence is consistently identified in geriatric psychology research as one of the most psychologically damaging experiences of aging. Studies show that structured exercise programs break the fear of falling spiral, not just physically, but psychologically. Participants report improved confidence and reduced fear within the first 8 to 12 weeks. Albert Bandura's foundational research on self-efficacy established that small, visible, progressive achievements build the belief that further achievement is possible. That is exactly what the month-by-month milestone structure creates. Each week's visible improvement compounds psychologically, standing longer, taking one more unassisted step, and each one makes the next one feel possible. Older adults who regain mobility report returning to activities they had given up, cooking a full meal, walking to a neighbor's house, attending family events. Depression scores improve on standardized measurements. The identity shift is real too, from care recipient back to active, independent person. And for families who have been serving as caregivers, the change in the household is felt by everyone. I want to be clear about one thing. This timeline was realistic for someone in her early 70s with moderate deconditioning and good consistency. A significantly older or more frail individual, someone in their 80s or 90s, or someone with serious comorbidities like heart failure or advanced osteoporosis, would typically progress more slowly. The protocol is the same. The timeline extends. The principles do not change. If you want to know exactly how to set up the month 1 protocol for someone starting at a different baseline, There's a video on this channel that breaks down the assessment phase in full, how to figure out the right starting point before anything else. That is where most families go wrong, and it's the one step that determines how the whole 5 months goes. It's linked right above this video.